there, our friend Dave. And that means it's another episode of Whisky Unscripted. Gordon Dundas, this is Series 7, Episode 7. How are you?
Well, I mean, I'm very well. I mean, it's good to be back. We've been a bit busy, hence the episodes have slowed down a little bit, but we've got this one and probably another couple maybe before Christmas. We'll see.
Yes. Yes.
And then we will come back in the new year, but all good. More and more people listening to the podcast. I was out and about at an event on Wednesday, and the guy comes up to me and he goes, "How do I know your voice?" And I was like, well, I do a lot of voiceovers on adverts and stuff. He went, "No, it's not that." I said, "No, you're right. It's not that. It's podcast, maybe." "That's it," he says. "That's it." Yes.
Very good. I had the same as well last Friday there. It's very nice. And at Buchan Bowling Club, shout out to Scott and the guys there. He was listening to the last episode. So, no, it's getting out there, Gordon. And
we just need to find a bit more time to do it, which is difficult with you traveling and me traveling. This is a busy time of the year. We have to get out into market and see people, but no, all good. Well, and good to be back.
The silly season it's been called, Gordon. Just so many events happening out there. Whiskey is really, I mean, it's maybe always thus, but it seems to be very, very busy this year, but in a great way. Lots of events, lots of festivals. Whiskey,
yeah, look, I think it is busy. I think hey, if I'm honest, I think, I think the market's a little different to what it was a couple of years ago, but still in a really good place, and whiskey's going well, and we're excited to be in this fantastic industry that we work in. So no, it was just interesting. I was out in China, and China's not functioning the way it normally does. It's a little bit slightly off the sort of path it normally sits on. So these kind of things have an impact, but ultimately, really, really good industry. Things going well, all is well. And I'm off to Holland on Thursday to probably one of the biggest whiskey festivals in terms of numbers. I think if you go around Europe, you've been to many of them, Gordon. I mean, I think I would put the sort of 4 whiskey festivals that you should probably try and go to as probably the Whiskey Show in London. Whiskey Live in Paris is fantastic. The Hague, which is the biggest one in the Netherlands, not Holland, and probably Frankfurt, which is the biggest one in Germany,
which is coming up soon as well.
Yeah, that's the weekend after next.
So these are great whiskey festivals to go and see, and also a curveball from me would be it's a podcast special on the good ship Cinderella out of Stockholm. If you can get to that festival, I would highly recommend it. But these are great whiskey festivals. Gordon, we're going to bring you one from Las Vegas, but very quickly, what are you drinking?
Oh,
well.
Good point. Well, I'll tell you what I've got here, actually, which I'm going to drink, I found this at the back of a cupboard. I've not drunk it for about 2 or 3 years since 2 years since it came out, which is the 18-year-old Tamdhu Cask Strength.
Wow.
This is the one that came out 2 years ago at the Spirit of Speyside Whiskey Festival. Only 1,000 bottles of this ever came out. And it's basically a cask strength edition of the new 18-year-old.
Oh,
and it is, European oak forward, that beautiful sort of dark berry cherry note on the nose. Thick, beautiful, 56.8% alcohol, I think.
Nice.
Beautiful whiskey, very in demand, only 1,000 bottles, but a beautiful higher strength edition of the limited Tamdhu 18.
Lovely. And I think moral of the story is get into Gordon Dundas's cupboards, because you do not know what is back there, because that looks absolutely tremendous. We were tasting the 18 Tamdhu on Friday night, and I did ask for some questions, and we got an interesting question about, I was mentioning first fills, refills, and just wanted a little bit more information of what that meant. And the question was, is it more prestigious to have a first fill than a refill? Gordon, over to you. What would you have said?
No.
Yeah, correct.
I don't think that's right at all. I mean, I think if you, in a very simple way, if we look at the composition of a whiskey, there's this phrase that says X percentage of flavor comes from the cask in a whiskey. And I think you look at across the whiskey spectrum, and even within our portfolio, you look at one end is, you know, maybe something like the cigar malt or the 18-year-old cask strength or the teapot dram, or from Glengoyne and Tamdhu. They're at that one end of lots of first fill, you know, and they're beautiful whiskies. And probably a little bit more of that higher percentage of cask influence over flavor, over spirit character. Then you have whiskies like the 15 Glengoyne, 15-year-old Tamdhu, which sit more in that middle where you bring in some refill. And then you have something like Rosebank at completely the other end where everything was refill. So it's not a matter of prestige, it's a matter of style and what you want to drink. So, for example, you know, if you go out for dinner, you want a really rich chocolate dessert, you don't get very much of it, do you? You get a little pot of it, you know, and it's probably just enough to, it's a little bit like that. You could probably, refills are really important. They're not less prestigious. They're really important to shine through that spirit character of the distillery. And that's why they're used in single malts by every producer.
And there's some distilleries that don't like first fills, full stop.
No, totally. Yeah, absolutely right. And I've said this many times, if you ask 10 distillery managers and you sat them in a row and said, what's your favorite type of cask? 75% of them would probably say refills, because it's shining through that spirit character that they produce in their stills. So not a matter of prestigious at all. It's a matter of style and what those casks deliver, or sometimes don't over deliver into a whiskey.
That's interesting.
Look at Six Isles as a prime example. Six Isles, what a whiskey. We love Six Isles. If you don't drink Six Isles, you're missing out. And that is a very light coloured whiskey, all about that spirit character shining through of 6 distilleries from Islay, all in one bottle. Not from Islay, from the islands, sorry. One from Islay, all in one bottle. So very light in colour. As we get it, another prime example of a refill whiskey, big flavours, big spirit character, fabulous. Less colour though.
Yeah.
That's what we get.
Yeah, and I'm holding up just because I'm going to go to Las Vegas very shortly. I thought to see what was in my cupboard, and I've got a West Bottoms Whiskey Co. Kansas City whiskey. West Bottoms. So this is Kansas City, and it is some perfect blend of bourbon and rye whiskey with notes of Oloroso sherry. Whoa, look at that. So
you're drinking that. Nice. Sounds good.
It's just bourbon. You've got rye there. And what we discussed in Vegas was just that sort of mash bill, that experimentation. We're going to hear from Cave Zamanian, who owns Rabbit Hole Distillery, and he talks about a 4-grain triple malt. He talks about a high rye double malt. And then we go and hear from Oregon Spirit Distillers, Brad Irwin, who's talking about wheat and rye combinations. And these experimentations, Gordon, happening all over, I would say, the whiskey industry now.
Totally. And I think, you know, in Scotland, we don't see a lot of this. We see a little bit more of it. But, you know, if you were to, and this is the slight idiosyncrasies of the Scottish whiskey industry, but if you were to, you know, single malt obviously is 100% malted barley. There's no mash bill. That's all it is. So if we move that to one side, well, what else can, so if you were to produce a 100% rye whiskey in Scotland, that would be from one distillery, that would be a single grain whiskey.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to then to make even if it's in pot stills, it can't, you know, it's still a single grain. That's the point. It's the nature of how we describe it. So our ability to talk the way these guys are about mash bills is a little bit limited in Scotland, because we have our very sort of rigid classification of, you know, a single malt is a single malt, and then, you know, a blended malt is malts blended together, single grain and grain. That's and blended. That's what we have. So it's we don't talk the same language a little bit. So it's interesting just to hear actually the mash bills and what they're actually going to talk about. And if I'm honest, I think it's great to see this diversity coming through, because, I mean, arguably, and I'm a big bourbon fan, bourbon is a little bit narrow in its taste profile. I mean, there is diversity within it, but you can only use one cask. You can only, you know, you need to use corn to a certain percentage. You need to char the cask, you know, however, all these things, but there is diversity within that. But,
Yeah.
To see all these other things coming out is great. But
listen, our I think Cavey mentions about bourbon being 51% corn, 49% possibility. It's a great quote. And we're going to zip you across now to Las Vegas. It was a tough gig, Gordon.
I can imagine. Before we go, could you just talk us through your so you went to America for the first time. I wasn't aware when you went to Texas. You went to Dallas. Dallas does Dallas.
He did.
And you went there, and you casually said, we were discussing before we went, I've never been to America before. I was like, oh, this is your first time. So you went to Dallas. You had the homecoming gig in Dallas, and then you went to Vegas. I mean, there's two. You could have gone to sleepy North Carolina, or Vegas. How was your Vegas experience? What did you think of the Strip?
I didn't know what to expect apart from big but exceeded expectations. I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought the Strip was extraordinary. And what's nice about the trip is you go to these liquor stores when real people that actually live in Vegas work, and they know their regular customers who come in. You meet them. There's actually normal people that live in Vegas. Yes, the Strip is something completely off the map, and often they don't go there. It just brings in lots of revenue, generates. I think the South Strip liquor store for Total Wine and More, one of the biggest by value stores in America, because some of the high rollers get in there just buying the top level whiskies. So it is extraordinary in one hand, but then it was a lovely normal visit to see normal people in their work environment. So it was two halves, Gordon, but I have to say the Strip was extraordinary. And of course, if you've not seen it yet, the Sphere, that big LED auditorium, which is screens everywhere inside. U2 were doing their residency there, and in the plane on the way over, there was loads of U2 fans there and back. So it's a massive draw for Vegas, that as well.
And you were over there with an Isle of Skye hat on, were you not?
Yes, we do a blended whiskey called Isle of Skye, and it's a blend, and it's going
fabulous.
It speaks the language of single malt, but it's a great blend. So it's a great conversation to have. Starts at age 8 and goes up to 30.
It's an amazing range of blends. I don't think there's another range of blends quite like it. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to try a fabulous blended whiskey, high malt content, definitely have a look at Isle of Skye.
So you're there to sell the whiskey, and also a part of it is selling the island. Where is the Isle of Skye? So that you're off on a conversation as well, and many people across here have had relatives or ancestors. So it was a great trip, Gordon.
Right. So
and I managed to squeeze in a wee bit of David Copperfield, the magician extraordinaire. Anyway, great night. And the culmination was Whisky on the Rocks, a whiskey festival, Red Rock Casino, and that's where we pick up some of our great guests that you're going to hear right now. So take it away. Okay, whiskey comes in very strange guises sometimes, and we're not quite yet at Whisky on the Rocks. We will talk whiskey, but at the moment in Las Vegas, we're at the hottest new attraction, Area 15, obviously riffing off Area 51. This is very psychedelic, very trippy. It's the best museum you could ever wish to go and visit, and obviously we're lost at the moment. We're having a little walk round, and I can just say welcome to the Las Vegas part of Whisky Unscripted, and we're going to go right now to the Las Vegas Strip and then to Whisky on the Rocks. But this is some place, so sit back and enjoy your Whisky Unscripted. Well, we're just going to, getting on for almost 9:45 here at Whisky on the Rocks, and of course it's organised by Total Wine and More. Who are they? You're maybe asking. I think I might have a gentleman to tell us. Cody, could you tell me who you are and what Total Wine and More is?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Cody Van Dussen. I'm one of the buyers at Total Wine and More. Total Wine and More is the largest U.S. spirits retailer. We have about 250 stores in 28 states.
Say that again?
250 stores in 28 states.
Oh my goodness, that's quite a spread.
Yeah.
And this evening is, well, what is this evening? Why Whisky on the Rocks?
Right, so Whisky on the Rocks really is a celebration to bring producers in to highlight whiskeys from all around the world. So tonight we have over, I think, 250 different whiskeys.
Well, let's walk and talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 500 tickets available. We do this every year that we can in beautiful Las Vegas. And 40 tickets go first for VIP. There's a master distillers dinner that we host. Okay. Whiskey pairings with 4 or 5 course meal. And the distillers get to talk all about their product and the pairings. And then again, we have a beautiful night. Producers to come show off their favorite whiskeys that you can find, some only in Total Wine & More.
Yeah. 'Cause I've mentioned on this podcast before about Total Wine & More how the UK really could do with something like that, where you get such passionate and knowledgeable people selling good wine and spirit, whereas possibly in our country, and of course people listening to this from other countries, but in our country, in the UK, it's kind of food retailers that are in charge. I'm not too sure they know half as much as you guys know. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. So Total Wine & More, we have over 10,000 store team members that are essentially brand ambassadors for the products on our shelves. We are really passionate about education of our store teams, and they know so much about wine, spirits, beer, you name it, that's in our stores.
Well, we do sometimes on this podcast a sort of insider's guides to, sometimes it's mashing, to sometimes it's blending, to, why not, right now, to buying. Now, how there's thousands and thousands of whiskies out there. How do you go around working out which one? This is Whisky Unscripted. Even just in the whiskies, not need to go into details of individual ones, but how do you go about it?
Yeah, so really it's what our customers are looking for. We, look at our shelves, we see what we're missing, what trends are going on, and we have, great relationships with partners around the world where we can source the liquid from. And, it's a great opportunity for myself to learn about, different trends in the spirits industry, specifically whiskey and scotch, and ultimately trying to surprise and delight our customers every day.
Yeah, what are the trends going on? And I can just say we've had Rabbit Hole here tonight, and the experimentation with the mash bill, really, really nice. That's a trend, I would imagine. Anything else out there that...
I really think, people are really exploring different cask finishes. I think it's really interesting to see, a Scotch distillery has their base characteristic across their different age statements, but to see finishing it in a Sakura cask, what does that do to the spirit? So I think it's an awesome way to sort of explore within the Scotch industry, the bourbon industry, what and love, and how aging in a different type of barrel, what effects it has on the spirit.
It's quite exciting, isn't it, the category now? For a while it was maybe static, and then all these new players are coming on the market and doing something quite exceptional.
Yeah, innovation really is, I think, the key to continue to, like I said, surprise and delight consumers, keep them thirsty and exploring more within the category.
Now, you're a very good person to speak to, because the stores I've been in Texas and in Vegas, tequila is really, it's big, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Would you say that's number one spirit in the US?
I'd say right now that's the number one trending spirit. The newest trend within the tequila category is additive free. So, going back to being, more health conscious, what is in this that I'm drinking. I think tequila is sort of setting the precedence for sort of reevaluating what is in this glass, and looking for not necessarily just premium, but also purity in the liquid that they're drinking.
And whiskey, how's that going at the moment? Because in the past it's tailed off, but from where I'm standing, it's very robust. But from where you guys are as a category, whiskey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's not enough whiskey in the world right now. There's allocations across all the big major players, and consumers are definitely trying to pry it off the shelf. So we're excited for that enthusiasm from our customers, and looking forward to having access to more allocation as the years go on.
Hopefully, it's more whiskey's getting laid down. You just can't make it. You can't invent it.
And with bourbon, you wait 3-4 years and you got it. Scotch, if you want the great stuff, that's 18, 21, 25 years.
And finally, Cody, you've been very good taking time out. I've got 2 questions. One, could you just give us a wee shout out for, I know you can't name everyone, but just give us a flavour of who's here tonight.
Right, absolutely. So we have consumers from all over the world, really. We have Oregan Spirit, based in Bend, Oregon, going to Whistle Pig here to my right.
Yep.
Of course, the exceptional Ian Macleod Distillers. Representing Japan, we have the Shibui with I&D Beverages. You've got your Balvenis, your Glenfiddichs, Ardbegs. From Texas, we have Iron Root Distillery with the LaCarche brothers. Hunter Lang from Scotland, and countless others.
It's just a fantastic night, and that's my final question. I've asked a couple of people on the podcast, but could you just describe this place and why you chose it? Because this is fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. So to paint the picture, we're at the Red Rock Casino, about 10 minutes off the Strip in Las Vegas, outside in their pool area that really fans out. We have booths all around. Really just vibrant atmosphere. We have great food, great music, of course, great whiskey. My favorite was the mashed potato stand with 4 or 5 different mashed potatoes to choose from. And we did a raffle earlier for 10 allocated items, and also donated $10,000 to a local charity. So really great event, great spirits, really joyful, celebrating together with a good dram.
And we'll put up some photographs online to see that there's swimming pools behind some of these stands.
That's right,
and that's fiendish. No one's fell ill yet, Cody.
There's been a few close calls. I myself, try not to get too close to the pool. So
listen, Cody, thank you so much. Great event. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Well, here we are. The saga continues, walking rounds Red Rock Casino, and I've chanced upon a wonderful bourbon. Sir, could you tell me what your name is and what I'm drinking?
Sure. My name is Kaveh Zamanian. I'm the founder and whiskey maker at Rabbit Hole Distillery in Kentucky. And what you're drinking is a wheated bourbon that's finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry casks, but it's a very special sherry cask because these sherry casks held sherry in their belly for 25 years before they were passed on to us. And you're drinking it at cask strength. This is 102.1 proof.
Well, I tell you what, I would not have guessed that.
Yeah.
That's so smooth, and it's a lovely fruitiness on the palate, and a lovely bit of spice, which I like as well. But could you explain we call it the mash bill, I'm sure you do as well. We all we know is 51% bourbon is the rules, but what's in this?
Yeah, for me, look, the light bulb moment when I got into business was that bourbon is 51% corn, 49% possibility. What that means is, for me, bourbon is very similar to the culinary tradition. My approach is I always start with the ingredients. We, for bourbon, have that base corn, and then we play around, especially with a lot of different malted grains. I think that malted grains impart a lot more flavor, a lot more character, and ultimately you get a very, very unique whiskey. So when you look at our core lineup, I've got basically 3 different bourbon recipes. I got a wheated finished in PX, I got a 4-grain triple malt, and I got a high rye double malt. So these are all very, very different expressions, and it's all based on, beyond the corn, variation of all the other grains that I've used.
And when you get the new make spirit, when it comes out the still, is it quite significantly different depending on the grain that you put into the mash?
Yeah, you can definitely, on the taste and the bouquet, you definitely see the difference. And I will tell you, I would love for you to taste, I got 2 bourbons that have the same 70% corn. One is called Cave Hill, the other one's called High Gold. That's the 4-grain triple malt and a high rye double malt. But 30% of the ingredients are different, and when you taste them, you're going to see what those 30% ingredients do. Very different.
It's funny that, because for years and years in Scotland, we've been saying the type of barley that we use is mostly for yields and for alcoholic yields.
Yeah.
But what you're able to do here is we've got to use malty barley, but you're able to sort of experiment away with
100%.
grains.
And honestly, for me, a bit of the inspiration was the craft beer guys. When they started experimenting with a lot of different grains, malts and hops, I think that was really kind of the opening for us as well to say, okay, well, within the parameters of bourbon, there's a lot of room to experiment, and that's what Rabbit Hole's about.
I love it. 2 questions. Yeah. Number 1, why Rabbit Hole?
So I was a psychologist for 20 years. Closed my practice to get in the game. My wife used to say, you're going to take the family down the rabbit hole with this crazy idea. And that's how Rabbit Hole was born.
Number 2 was, what did you do before?
Yeah, that's right. It was different kind of medicine. How about that?
Oh, that's a great idea. And one final question: what do you think of this? This is my first time here in Red Rock. What do you think of this event?
This is a spectacular event. It's fantastic. There's so many amazing producers here, and it's just lovely to be able to walk around and taste so many great whiskeys under one place.
That's great. So listen, I'm going to stop the recording now, and we start the tasting.
Yeah, please, let's do it.
So you just take me through. We're back in the tasting.
Okay, so we got 2 bourbons that we're going to taste here. We got a 4-grain triple malt and a high rye double malt. The first one you're tasting is a 4-grain triple malt. It's 70% corn, 10% malted wheat, 10% malted barley, and 10% honey malted barley.
Oh, wow. That is absolutely delicious.
And we
smooth as well. You're getting that smoothness associated with bourbon, but behind that, it's a lovely little nip in my tongue.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is, I used to, I drank a lot of Scotch. This is the only bourbon that you see on the market that the secondary flavoring grain is barley. You got 2 different kinds of barleys coming together, that honey malted barley and then just the regular standard malted barley. And that honey malted barley
How do they do that, honey malted barley?
So, they just, great maltsters play around with temperature and humidity to just organically bring certain flavors out of the grain, and that's basically it. So no honey is added. It's just essentially the honey flavors that are already in the grain are coming out or accentuated.
Okay.
Now I want you to taste this one. This is a high rye double malt. This is also 70% corn, but you got 25% malted rye, and then the balance of it is malted barley. So only 30% is different. Very, very different whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I wanted to show you. I wanted to put them next to each other to just show you how the recipes influence the whiskey.
As I keep on repeating myself, it's something we can't do in Scotland, but to see someone experimenting with that mash bill and using different sort of grains in there is fascinating.
Well, I appreciate it, man. To me, that's what's really exciting right now about bourbon.
Oh, it is.
And, that's kind of the direction that I'm hoping the industry would go. That, there's something magical about blending and maturation, but for us, we have an opportunity to play around with grains in ways that historically people have not.
And is it fair to say it's maybe been a little bit one-dimensional in the past?
Yes.
Bourbon? Yeah,
I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
And that's certainly anything but one-dimensional. That's wonderful.
Well,
Listen,
thank you.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, my friend.
And we will share this link with you. And
Look forward to it.
Great. Thank you. So we're now at the Oregon Spirit Distillers. And sir, I don't know your name, but I was acquainted with your whiskey a couple of days ago in the stores. So what is your name, and could you explain Oregon Spirit Distillers?
Absolutely. My name is Brad Irwin. I'm the owner of Oregon Spirit Distillers. We're in Oregon, of course. Good name for a distillery in Oregon. We're focused on using Oregon-grown grain to make American-style whiskey. We make 3 expressions. Okay. We make American wheat whiskey, a bourbon whiskey, and an American rye whiskey.
Now, when did this start? And what gave you
2008.
Wow.
We live in the high desert in Oregon. The water there's fantastic. Lots of great grain. Access to all the resources you need to make great whiskey.
And why do that? Not do something else?
A
normal job? What made you decide?
I'm not very good at jobs, right? And everybody else I know owns a brewery, and I don't like beer. So we started a whiskey distillery. My wife and I started a whiskey distillery in 2008. And
how's it been? How's it gone?
Outstanding. We're 22 people now. We're in 26 states in the United States, and things are amazing.
Now, I asked you to pour me something before the interview started. Yes. What was it?
This is my favorite whiskey. Okay. It is our American wheat whiskey, so it's not bourbon. It's made from wheat, which is Oregon is known for growing great wheat. Yeah. Does have a little bit of malted barley. You'll find some rice at the end. It's a 5-year product. Very approachable.
And matured in
American.
Bourbon barrels?
Yeah. American white oak.
Oh my goodness.
Nice, easy approach, gentle.
But a lovely, which I love, a lovely little bite and some pepper and some lovely spice at the back of my palate.
Maybe some complexity at the end. Oh. Yeah, still works on you for a little while. Nice linger.
What's the strength, sorry?
That's at 100 proof.
So that'd be our 50 ABV.
Yep.
Wow, that's absolutely lovely.
Yep.
And you've got plans for the future. What's the game?
We continue to grow with 3 different whiskeys, and next year you'll see an American single malt from us as well.
Now that's interesting.
Malted barley,
Okay.
beautiful, aged 5 years, a lot of fruit notes.
Is there many people doing this? We read a little bit more about the single malt in America.
A lot of distilleries, particularly in the northwest of the United States, are doing a lot of experimentation with barley because it grows so well. But American single malt isn't known as well as other regions for barley, but there's some fantastic innovation coming out, and we want to be part of it.
There really is. And if you have to say, you say this is 5 years old.
Yes, yeah, It's a 5-year, yeah.
Wow. You taste some whiskies and you know they're 5 years old.
Yep.
But this tastes much older.
I appreciate you
I don't know if
trying
it's the
it,
weather or the climate in Oregon.
So we live in a dry climate. It's in the high desert. It's cold, and we get plenty of heat. But in the summertime, but dry climate. So all of our barrels, we see our proof go up over the course of their maturation.
Yeah.
So we have a fairly low entry proof because to compensate for that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, listen, continued success.
I appreciate
Sounds
it.
like
Thank
a great product. And just one word about tonight. What do you think?
What an amazing event! This is our first time to this event.
Same here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Why can't they all be like this?
Right? Yeah.
I don't want to do tasting without a casino and a pool.
Right, exactly.
That's going to be my riders from now on.
Yeah, an amazing day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
See you next year.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
I do, so
It's totally conversational. That's how it should be. Here we are.
But that's just it. It should be conversational. What you like, what I like, what he likes, and we compare.
And you just mentioned you guys riff off of each other about your whiskies. So what's your name, guys? And how have you enjoyed the evening so far?
Oh, enjoyed the evening quite well.
Yeah, what's your name?
My name is Rob. These whiskeys are amazing. The 21-year-old is unbelievably delicate, and yet it has great flavor to it. What do you think, Bob?
I love it. I enjoy the conversation with you as much as I do the whiskey. Because that's what it's about. If you're having a glass of whiskey, you should be having it with your friends, enjoying it and talking about things, and your conversation has made this phenomenal.
Great. Listen, Las Vegas, most people listening might just think Las Vegas is the Strip. It's all... Tell us a little bit about the whiskey and about Las Vegas and what you drink here. Paint a picture of what's happening.
Well, the scary thing is I can get better whiskeys here than my brother can in Kentucky where it's made, which is crazy. And a lot of it's because out here they don't know about it as much. And everybody in Kentucky knows about the whiskeys. Everybody knows about the bourbons.
Yeah.
I'm lucky out here because I can sneak in and get something that it's sold out there, but I can get it here.
So is bourbon big in Vegas? What's going down? This is Whisky Unscripted. So what's going down in the whiskey scene in Vegas?
Well, bourbon isn't that well known here in Las Vegas, but it is starting to come in. It's starting to make a name. You're here at the Bourbon Festival here in Las Vegas, Red Rock Casino, right? My friend and myself, we're bourbon guys, so we enjoy this atmosphere, right? And as for you, well, you're amazing because you're giving us an education that we don't have on your area of expertise. You got to understand that.
For example, I would never buy a 21-year-old Irish whiskey in a store. Doesn't matter the price because I don't have that. I had the stigma that it's not going to taste right. This tonight shows me that bottle is worth buying because now I know what it tastes like. And I would never buy it in the store because I'm just going to go, it's a shot in the dark. I'm about to play the lottery.
That's right.
There's thousands of bottles and I don't know what any of them taste like, but this event allows us to at least try them. Like you said, we talk to each other. We get to talk to you. You talk about things, and
you mentioned about tonight's events very quickly. What's apart from ours? What's done the business for you guys?
The Japanese whiskey over there. I think it's Sobu. It's phenomenal.
Is it?
And then they had an experimental bottle at the Buffalo Trace.
You were saying it's the master distiller.
Yeah, only tonight's event only. He took it from the cask for this event only, so it's not even available in stores, and it's 142.
What are you talking about? Isles of Skye. It's unbelievable. You guys are amazing.
You guys are hired. You're hired.
You guys are amazing.
You're hired.
Your help is amazing. Very knowledgeable. We enjoy it. The 12 and the 21 are amazing. If you've never tried it, please try it. Please try it.
Right, more for these gentlemen.
You have the Las Vegas stamp of approval.
Yeah, brilliant. We will be back. Look out for it. Guys,
we
thank you
hope
for
so.
joining us on Whisky Unscripted.
Thank you for having us.
There was,
Well.
I have to say, we were outside in the pool area. I've never done a whiskey festival with a pool, and there was more than one pool in this area casino. So actually, our pop-ups banners both fell in the pool. Bit of wind, they were in the pool.
I would imagine it was a bit different from maybe doing a whiskey sort of tasting at the time capsule in Coatbridge.
That was great. But as a little conversation to end that, gambling big in Vegas, but whiskey, can you make a parallel between some of the gambles that have happened in whiskey? And I'm thinking, who would thought, you know what, I'll build a vertical distillery in the port of Leith. You know, that's one potentially gamble. People are putting millions of pounds into these investments right now as whiskey's expanding and booming. And maybe you can look back in the past and thought, whoop, that was a gamble. That was a gamble. So this is Whisky Unscripted. You did not know this subject, but off the top of your head, Gordon, who's gambled in whiskey? And I'm thinking,
you start.
Well, you were at Arden American. You talked about that a few episodes ago in the podcast. You know, it's an independent bottler, it's a Delphi.
Yeah.
Decide to find one of the most remotest corners of Scotland. And open up a distillery. Now, did you say that's a gamble?
Well, I mean, I think the location is. I mean, it's like Nicknean, which is out that way as well. By the crow flies, they're very close, but not by any other way. And they are literally, you know, out on a limb. And you do think, as a modern whiskey industry now, if we think of the geographical nature of Scotch, it's down to history. It's not really down to anything else. So from a practicality perspective, and from a perspective of making whiskey, being out where Arden American is, I mean, it's fabulous, gorgeous, beautiful. I mean, of course, ultimately, you know, over time, the sort of where they are, I think, will have a small impact on the whiskey, etc., over time in a cask. But you could probably make a very similar whiskey in a suburb of Glasgow, you know, in a modern whiskey world. And it just makes you wonder, the wide geography that still happens in this industry is an interesting one, because I think it's probably less necessary now, if you know what I mean. But look, they're doing a great job, and both of those brands are doing a great job.
Another one
that shows you
is somewhat Penderyn, the Welsh whiskey. I mean, was that 20 odd years ago? There wasn't many distilleries opening up. Maybe you could think of the Cotswolds, maybe the one in Norfolk as well.
Oh, Penderyn. I remember thinking Penderyn was like, there was maybe an English whiskey. There was an English whiskey in Norwich, and Penderyn opened up, and there wasn't any other whiskey south of the border 15, 20 years ago. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they came out with a very unique way of doing it. And Penderyn's got a very high new make strength. Jim Swan, I think, was involved with them, and produced a really unique whiskey. And good luck to them. They're building a second distillery, I think, aren't they? Have they built one? Something like that.
Yes, that's right. The North Wales. That's correct. Yeah. So that's nice. I just thought some gambles in the whiskey industry. There's more.
I think the other one is, if you look at bourbon, I mean, you know, let's go to the land of America. I used to go to Kentucky a lot, and I think there's literally about there was 9 or 10 distilleries when I went there in 2005. I used to go to 2006. I used to go to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, which is brilliant, in late September. And there was Jim Beam, there was Buffalo Trace, there was Four Roses, there was Wild Turkey, there was really all those sort of big names, and beyond that there was none of now the massive amount of bourbons, even in Kentucky, but beyond in America. And I think probably one of the, if you look at it in the diversity of bourbons, firstly, we all know that a lot of the bourbons actually didn't come from these distilleries. They all came from a distillery in Indiana called MGP, which I think, sort of off the shelf bourbons, while their own bourbon matured for long enough, which is, if you're upfront about it, I think it's fine. But my problem goes back to a little bit with, there's so much bourbon now that I'm concerned a little bit about bourbon in the next 3 to 4 years, just with the huge diversity of bourbon in terms of where they are, but not so much in the taste.
Well, I have to say that Rabbit Hole and the Oregon Spirit was delicious. I mean, it really
Yeah,
was
it is
great.
delicious.
And these guys are making it, they're talking it, they're just, if that's anything to go by, Gordon, it is safe, at least in their hands. And there was more I had chosen, but that's curated by Total Wine and More. So it's definitely worth watching. But I think you're enough gambles in whiskey. And do you know another gamble? If I had, a spare couple of £1 billion, I was in the Bellagio.
Where are you?
I was in the Venetian.
Right.
It's New York. All these casinos with lovely themes of Italian, lakeside or the Statue of Liberty. And I'm just thinking, if they had a couple of billion, because that's how much the Bellagio cost, you could put together a Scottish casino, Scottish themed, tartan carpets. You've got the best whiskey in the world, the pipes at the front door. Maybe it's like a big castle, Edinburgh Castle style. I mean, you could really
do
go
that.
to town.
I think the other thing is the currency would have to be the smackaroonie.
That's the official currency of
the
Scottish
a couple of
casino.
smackaroonies on that, pal.
That's right.
But yeah, no, I think you probably could. I mean, here's an interesting stat for you as well. I've been to Macau, which is the Las Vegas of China, effectively, the former Portuguese colony, for want of a better word, right next to Hong Kong. Now, I'm not sure this stat is correct now, but it was about 10 years ago. Macau takes in 10 times the amount of money that Vegas does.
Oh, for goodness sake.
And there's a Venetian in Macau, and there's about,
wow,
it's another level.
Yes.
And Macau is quite an impressive place as well.
Let's take a Scottish casino out. Listen, if you're listening to this right in, I'm sure there's more themes we could push there, and I can try and get the Scottish casinos in Vegas and Macau. As we are recording, Gordon, the Formula One are going to Vegas. The biggest, one of the greatest shows in the world, the big F1, and the strip was being taken over effectively by grandstands.
Yeah, it's not gone down that well from what I hear. So I think if you go, because a lot of people go to Vegas, they don't know about Formula One, so they'll be like, this is not the strip, this isn't the way I heard it was going to be. And I think there's a few upset people. Yes, but anyway.
That's right. Anyway, let's zip over, Gordon's one of these episodes to Amsterdam. I was across there for the Arch of Drink, and it was wonderful. It's almost the gold standard of whiskey festivals, the way they put it together in the Vastergas Platz, old gasometer, and it's in the round, wonderful series of.
I've never been. You've always been. I've never been.
Yes, maybe you should check it out.
I'll be there next week, though. This week,
I did catch an interview with our man there, Jules de Kock, who gave us a little overview of the Dutch whiskey scene. But interestingly, I spoke to a young lady called Guisi from Utrecht, who runs the Malt Vault. And if we talk about history in whiskey, we're in a big boom at the moment. We talked about gambles. People are gambling and opening up distilleries because the whiskey world's booming. Well, the last big bust was in the 1980s. Really, 33, 34 closures. Whiskey was seen, Gordon, really as an old man's drink. It was very unfashionable. It's not what the modern young people wanted. And that's exactly what was going through my mind when I interviewed Guisi at the Malt Vault. And it'll all become understandable when you hear her chat about her bar, who she's serving, how they're serving it. It is refreshing. I think you'll love it. Here we go. So we'll try and, above the music in the background, try and talk Dutch whiskey. So I think it'd be lovely to get under the skin of whiskey in the Netherlands. And I can't think of somebody better. An overview is this man here. You must know Dutch whiskey inside out. What's your name, sir, and what do you do?
Well, I am Joel. I am the ambassador for Ian Macleod Distillers. You're actually my colleague, Gordon.
Yes.
But I live in the Netherlands.
Yes. So
I am you in the Netherlands.
Could you give an overview of whiskey in the Netherlands? Is it blends? Is it single malts? Is it by city? Just give us the grand picture, if you can, of whiskey in the Netherlands.
Yeah, of course. Well, nowadays it's popping up everywhere. Whiskey from the Netherlands wasn't that popular, it wasn't that famous, and there weren't many distilleries who were actually making it. If you look at the Netherlands, you'll see a bright history of Geneva. The Dutch have been distilling spirits for a long time using juniper berries, making Geneva, and with really high portions of malted barley. So if you look at what Geneva was, it's actually quite a good whiskey, but with some juniper berries in it. So if you look nowadays, not so much distilleries anymore, but you see many popping up in the east.
Okay.
Mostly in the east, for example, Eastmore or Kalkwijk. They make beautiful whiskies. You see young women actually being master distiller, maybe 28 years old. Well, she's from Kalkwijk, for example, but also Friese Hinder from the north of the Netherlands. From the south, you find some distilleries. No, it's popping up, and it's all because of the whiskey boom you see worldwide and Netherlands.
And when did the whiskey boom really kick in with the Netherlands? You said it wasn't really a category as much in the Netherlands. Is it relatively recently popular whiskey?
It is very popular. Well, I see, of course, a whiskey festival, The Hague, whiskey festival in North Netherlands are the two most famous whiskey festivals in the Netherlands, I guess. Right now we are at the Art of Drinks, which I think at the moment is also becoming a very significant whiskey event in the Netherlands. Not only whiskey, also cocktails and different kind of spirits, but whiskey, as you can see over here, it's huge as well.
A huge thing. Is it single malt mostly, or what kind of whiskies?
Oh, mostly single malt, because what you see with the new distilleries that are popping up, they're not so much making blends, they're making single malt to go straight for the unique quality of their house style, of course. And you'll find that also they make some Geneva sometimes. They make some other spirits. Yeah. No, but it's definitely, most of the time, it's single malt. Yeah.
Okay, and just to sort of bring it down to your level, what are you doing on a daily basis, and how are you getting whiskey around the Netherlands? What do you do?
In my Ian Macleod van.
Yep.
Look, I'm the Batman for Ian Macleod. I have my own van. It doesn't look like a Batman mobile, but okay. Okay, but I have a beautiful van. I go around the Netherlands. I do tastings at shops from the center to the north to the south. Everywhere in the Netherlands, you can go by car in 2 hours, almost 3 hours everywhere. We're a small country. And but I also do entree. So I visit high-end bars, for example. And if you look at Glengoyne and Tamdhu, those bars I'm looking for are high-end, sometimes Michelin star level even. And but also tastings at shop owners for their clients.
Yes. And you were saying the other day that cocktails, you instituted, because whiskey, it's lovely to drink it straight, but part of the future of whiskey is cocktails. Well, let's face it.
Exactly. And look at cooking, of course. You can find some ingredients which are great to eat or drink on itself, like whiskey. But if you look at when you combine beautiful ingredients together, from citrus to rosemary to other herbs or botanicals, with the juices, but as long as there's quality, you can do beautiful cocktails with it. Look at a Rob Roy with a Tamdhu 12 or a Glengoyne 10 in old fashioned or a sour.
And it's quite a big scene in Amsterdam, the cocktail scene.
Exactly. I think Amsterdam one of the most vibrant cocktail scenes in the world. It's not like in London or in New York. It's not on that same level. We're a few years behind, but I think we're definitely relevant in the world. Yeah.
And if you MD listen to this, what fancies a trip to the Netherlands? Could you maybe give us a couple of bars we could maybe pop into? It doesn't need to be Amsterdam, just good ones.
Exactly. Well, if you go to Amsterdam, I think many listeners will go to Amsterdam. Go to Flying Dutchman if you want really good cocktails. Go to Fejoa, because that's where all the bartenders go. That's a secret.
Go. This is exactly. That's where,
exactly. If you want to go really, really high end, go to Fitz's Bar from. I don't know the hotel name, but Fitz's Bar is you can find some Glengoyne 21 over there as well on the shelf. Wow. If you go outside of Amsterdam, in The Hague, for example, go to the Malt Vault, which is a really nice whiskey bar. The Malt Vault also has in Utrecht a Malt Vault bar, great whiskey specialist. We just talked to Guisi.
She's fantastic.
Exactly, Guisi's fantastic, and I met her when she started working at the Malt Vault many years ago. And right now, she's actually a significant figure in the whiskey industry in the Netherlands, I would say.
Talking about the future of whiskey, there she said 4 of them working in that bar, all under age 28, and a lot of clientele are women. It's just fantastic.
Exactly, and you organize like women's events once a few months, and only women come there. But it's also women like whiskey. It's a British spirit for everyone.
That's right. It's much more welcoming than it has been in the past. Joel, the future of whiskey, is it just going to get bigger and bigger in the Netherlands? You think? Is that where it's going?
So I guess that's exactly where it's going. So you find other categories which are interesting and becoming popular, like rum, mezcal goes well with cocktails, but also tasting for just pure. What the whiskey's doing right now, this is not the end. This is, I guess, still the beginning from a really vibrant whiskey scene in the Netherlands, but I guess also worldwide.
Oh, brilliant, Joel. Listen, we've got so much to do here. You're a very busy man today. You have been running all over the place. So let's go and let's get back into the action. Cheers, Joel.
Thank you. Cheers, Gordon.
Now, it's always great to hear about whiskey and how it's been served, who's serving it. Hello, what's your name?
My name is Guisi.
And where's the bar?
The bar is the Malt Vault and is in Utrecht.
Oh, I love that name, the Malt Vault.
Yes.
So mostly whiskey you're serving?
Yes, I would say 95% of what we have is single malt, and probably 70% of that is Scotch, and the rest is a little bit from all over the world.
That's fine. We can handle that. So, what's the kind of average customer? What they're looking for in Utrecht when they come in for a whiskey?
Well, actually, most of our customers either have never drank whiskey before, or they are not your classic whiskey drinker. We don't really get the older generation leather couches and cigar type of people. We do get that too. Our team is composed of only girls at the moment.
Right.
We are 4 girls, all below 28 years old.
Really?
Yeah, and when people come in, it's, I would say, very not intimidating as other whiskey bars could be. The core concept of what we do is dividing things based on what they taste like rather than where they come from.
Brilliant. You're speaking our language here.
Yeah.
Carry on, yes. So.
And we always explain to customers, but basing it on facts. We never give too deep or detailed tasting notes. We would rather just explain what's on the label and how whiskey is made. And then, taste is very subjective. We don't like to tell people what they should drink or how they should drink them. We just give them the facts to understand what they like.
Yeah.
And
is it working? This style of
so far so
you're
good.
speaking our language. It sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yes, indeed.
High flavour, young demographic,
and a lot of ladies, which is lovely.
And there are a lot of ladies in there.
Also as customers, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of them are.
Are they? Fantastic.
Yeah, indeed.
And what's just give a couple of whiskies finally? What has been popular in the last couple of weeks or last couple of months?
Well, the way we do it, we mostly let people relax and sit back, and we pick for them based on the flavor profile that they tell us they want to try or that they like, or also based on things they don't like, as in we exclude those. We like to order, I like to order anything basically, as long as it's good quality whiskey. We like to do it that way, and then people like to explore when they come to us. We don't have things like your Lagavulin 8 or Lafroig 10 Select or whatever it is. We like to have more interesting things, limited releases, independently bottled whiskies, so that people can try things that they've never tried before and explore. So there's not really something that is popular.
Okay.
We like to have a wide variety of different tastes, because of course every taste is different and every person is different.
How's the smoky ones going down? Peated ones?
Yeah, I would say most of the customers that we have like the peated ones. I personally very much like the peated ones, and of course when I do the ordering, my taste does get in the way of what I order, but we like to have a wide variety. So I would say the most popular things are always like the sherry bombs, the port casks, the heavily peated ones, and on the other hand, the super soft ones.
And for the rest of the world, are you going by country again? I'm sure it's by flavour, but where in the rest of the world are you going to bring the whiskey back? Or what?
From which parts of the world? Everywhere. We have Swedish, Italian, French, German, Japanese, Icelandic, Swiss, Taiwanese. We had a Chinese one at some point that will probably come back in a bit. We do have the Irish, not as many as we have the Scotch, but we do have the Irish. Very few bourbons, not really specialized in the bourbons, but if there's something special, we like to have it. We like to have one of everything.
Well, I think that's a fantastic. This is almost the future of whiskey. I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing. So I would love to see the bar, but in the meanwhile, hopefully much success with your bar.
Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you.
And we'll see you there.
Yes.
I'm very well.
What's your name, sir?
Stephen Cameron.
And Stephen, you have just given me a lovely dram. What have I just had?
So you just had Old Pulteney 15 years old, which is so part of the core range from the Pulteney Distillery. Initial maturation in ex-bourbon casks for around 12 years, and then the final 3 years spent in Spanish oak, first fill Old Roaster sherry casks.
Oh, that's get that lovely wee spice to it as well.
You do. You get the spiciness from the sherry, obviously, but also combined with the natural, like, fresh maritime profile of Pulteney, which is the kind of the signature style, the DNA of Pulteney.
I love that. It's got lots of lovely body to it as well. I love that.
It does, yeah. So Pulteney is like a very particular stills. Like we have a very odd wash still, which has a massive boil ball, which really encourages that reflux.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the alcohol vapors are cooled in warm tubs.
Oh,
so
yes.
that gives you that body and that oiliness that is typical of that type of cooling.
And where is Old Pulteney?
So Pulteney is Pulteney Distilleries in Wick. So Wick is one of the northernmost coastal cities in Scotland. Top northeast of Scotland, beaten by the elements. The cliffs of the North Sea are literally just a few hundred yards away from the warehouse. And that's another thing with Pulteney is that we call ourselves the maritime malt, but we do actually have a solid case because every single drop of Old Pulteney single malt whiskey is matured on site in those warehouses just right next to the shore. So in that sense, I would say we have a strong case to call ourselves a true coastal distillery.
And I can't deny I had a couple of... I had one more earlier on today. It was a Balblair, but you're on this gantry, if you just walk along, what else have we got? Because it's a lovely range of whiskies.
So the International Beverage Group, formerly known as Inverhouse, has 5 distilleries in Scotland. So Pulteney being probably the most famous, the most established one. But we also have Speyburn and Speyside in Rothes, so just not far from Glengrant Distillery. Typical Speyside, like medium-bodied, fruit-forward, again quite oily. Really great dram, completely underrated as well in my opinion. Then we have another distillery in Aberdeenshire called Knockdhu. The distillery is called Knockdhu, the single malt is called Anok. For obvious reasons, in 1990 when they launched that single malt brand, they thought that calling it Knockdhu single malt would be a little bit too confusing, so they went for Anok. Anok meaning the hill.
And that's one for the pronunciation. In Scotch whiskies, there's certain whiskies you look at and think, how do you pronounce?
Exactly. Yeah. The C is silent. The first C is silent. So Knockdhu, which is technically a Highland whiskey, but it's really on just on the other side of the border with Speyside. Ultimately, in terms of style, you could really pass this whiskey as a Speyside. It's probably more Speyside than some Speysides. Producing both unpeated and peated spirit. So that's another one of them. And then of course we have Balblair, probably another bigger name within the range. Very old distillery, one of the oldest in the Northern Highlands. So originally founded in 1790.
Goodness.
Very traditional, again, like kind of a bolder spirit. It's a very again quite oily, quite thick, and unpeated, but still a bulky, bolder spirit, which does extremely well in sherry.
Oh, I love it.
So these are our 4 single malts, 4 single malt brands. We do have one more distillery, which at the moment is not being bottled as an official single malt, called Balmenic. Balmenic is also in Speyside. We do produce Caroon gin over there, so that's the brand that people know. However, we do produce a lot of spirit, top quality spirit, I may add, at Balmenic Distillery. At the moment, no official single malt brand.
Right.
Who knows? I think everyone's kind of hoping that something happens in the future.
Listen, that's a fascinating insight. What a tremendous insight. And that's 3 days in, and you've been speaking for quite a lot of those. So, Stephen, thank you so much for a little look under the lid here. It's been,
you're very welcome, Gordon.
And you're not a bad neighbour as well. It's been great.
Well, I mean, your whiskies are not too bad, I must say.
We have had a nice exchange of... we'll leave it there. It's been very good. Stephen, cheers. Thank you. He's a good guy. Stephen, well done for finishing our Dutch section there. And thanks to Joel. And just on that, Guisi from Utrecht, Gordon. 4 members of staff, all under 28, all women, serving mostly women, whiskey in Utrecht. Gordon, if that's not the future of whiskey, I don't know what is. I was absolutely delighted to hear that was a thing happening.
That's brilliant. That really is good. That's really, really good. And look, I'm all for doing really different things with whiskey. And the more whiskey continues to engage at a serving level,
yes,
not a brand level. Brands are all, that's all very important. But actually in a bar, how a bartender communicates to a consumer about whiskey is so important.
And as you heard there, she was saying they generally don't. They ask for the flavour. What do you like? Then they will go and bring the whiskey over by flavour, as opposed to by name or by reputation,
region or whatever. No, and I'm a big believer that depending on how you sell whiskey, whether it's in a bar, or in a sort of a shop.
Yeah.
Regionality is not how you sell it. You should be selling it by taste. And it's great to go into. I was in the Royal Mile Whiskies about 3 weeks ago, and I'm just playing a bit dumb, and I'm just looking for a really nice after dinner whiskey. And full marks, the guy went and picked up 3 different whiskies, one of which was ours, which was lovely. And I walked out without buying anything. But
nice.
It was just nice to sort of see how they do it, which was really good.
Well, that brings me on to another little section. And this has been around for years and years and years. I did an event at the Old 100 in Rose Street in Edinburgh about a month ago, and they were doing it. And that's a nice bar. I was speaking, and I was in the Northcote Manor, which is a Michelin star restaurant in Middle England.
Tough gigs, Vegas.
Isn't it? And they were doing this, and they're starting to do it. And then I was doing a training for Dakota in Edinburgh, South Queensferry, and they wanted to do it. And Gordon, what they were doing and what they want to get into is whiskey flights. Not just one whiskey, but you ask yourself, they want to curate 3 whiskies. People come in, a little story, a little flavour journey, and not necessarily driven by the customer. It's like, let the bar suggest these flights. Now, we have got a whiskey connoisseur right now, Gordon. I've got some suggestions. If you were going to do, I've called it Dundas flights or Easy Flight, or Gordon Dundas curates 3 whiskies for a flight. Come fly with me. Gordon Dundas, and this is off the top of the old bonds.
Yeah, of course it is. It's Whisky Unscripted.
You've mentioned it already. Let's start easy. Ian Macleod flight. 3 whiskies that showcases this company. You're going to have to miss some out.
3 or 4 whiskies?
No, 3.
Only 3?
Only 3.
Look, I think you have to have a Glengoyne in there. So I'd probably go with a Glengoyne 12. I think it epitomizes Glengoyne beautifully, happily. Yeah. Lovely, lovely style. I think what I would then probably go for would be something like an Isle of Skye 18, I think. Something like that.
Yeah.
I think that would be because I want to showcase how good blended whiskey is. Isle of Skye 18's got that little bit extra richness coming through. And although, yes, I think I'd probably do that. And then probably finish on something a little bit off the wall, maybe something a little bit smokeheady or a first fill example of a Tamdhu, something like that. Maybe a Tamdhu Dalby Alley dram or something like that.
Right, that's
nice.
nice.
You've got 3 really different whiskies, one blended in there. And I think it shows a little bit about the history of the company. Isle of Skye representing our sort of blended business, our bulk sort of style that we used to do, and our 2 distilleries, which were fundamental to changing Ian Macleod to what it is now.
I think that's a great flight, Gordon. We'll come back to Isle of Skye at another time. 1933, the actual Ian Macleod starts the business. Okay, your spiritual homeland a little bit, because that's where you used to work at Islay.
Oh,
Whiskies from Islay, Gordon.
oh really?
It's a flight. People are coming. You're the barman. People are coming in and just want a little flavour of Islay. It's not the definitive whiskies. It's just how you give them a little. I don't know much about Islay. You give me a flight. This is what these bars are all.
Well, I mean, I would probably start with. I mean, you have to have a Lafroig 10 in there. I think you have to have a Lafroig 10. But I would also show. I'd show either side. So I'd have a Bruichladdich in there, which is non-peated. So you've got a non-peated Bruichladdich, a Lafroig 10. Lafroig 10's, I think, at 40. The Bruichladdich at 50. And then I'd probably go for. I mean, you could go for an Octomore to show the highest peated level in a whiskey, but I think I would probably go for something a little bit different. So probably one of the smaller independent-y ones, maybe a Kilchoman in there.
Oh, nice.
Just to show the sort of newest distillery as well, not that Ardnahoe is, but the second newest distillery.
Just a flavour.
Probably something like that.
Just a flavour. Now, you've mentioned it already. Put a blend in the Isle of Skye. Not just all high-end whiskies, but blends. Could you put up 3 whiskey blended whiskies to show someone that come into these bars or hotels what that blended world is like? They're maybe used to single malt, but hey, Scotland was always famous for its blends.
I probably could. I'd probably take some from around the world. I'd start with a blend which is not one of ours, but a blend which I think is, I'd love to see more of it, actually. It's a fabulous blend. Bailey Nickel Jarvie. I think that's a brilliant blend. We'd probably also then have something in there that I think represents the craft of blending. I think from another part of the world, maybe a Hibiki in there. Yes. I think a Hibiki 12 would be a really good example of, a different take on blending. And then, you could finish on something like an Isle of Skye 30 for sure, which just shows the depth of age of Scottish blends. But what I probably would love to take would be and I'm speaking with Neil Ridley about this recently, is one of the Scottish blends from the 1960s or 70s, like a White Horse blend. Amazing blends, those, because you've got to remember back in the 60s and 70s, all the decent single malt wasn't being produced for single malt. It was also going into blends. So 60s and 70s blends and even 80s blends in the UK, the sort of what you would call more standard blends, some of them were amazing. And I don't know the order of how I would do that, but I would want to put in something like that to just showcase the sort of depth of blends from the sort of maybe the best era of blended Scotch whiskey, which might be the 60s, 70s, and early 80s.
Yeah. And as you were speaking, I'm just thinking to myself, collectability. I must check out blends from the 60s and see if they're available. But I bet I think more and more popular.
Oh, they're fabulous. And it's, down to the fact that single malt wasn't a thing back then. So they might have had some old single malt and they weren't keeping it for it because there wasn't a market for it per se. So it was going into blends.
Well, listen, that is what do you call it, a theme that have emerged in the last few months, Gordon, about bartenders asking me about flights.
What would be yours?
With the blends,
the Dallas flight, the all on red flight. Put it all on
straight
red
from Vegas, baby. Yeah, I love a sherried whiskey, so it'd either be a Tamdhu, Glenfarclas, Glendronach, a real Oloroso sherried whiskey for number one.
Glengoyne 25.
Yes, Glengoyne 25. That style. And then, maybe across the Atlantic, I have to say that Rabbit Hole was an absolute tremendous whiskey. But it's just
something clearly gone down a rabbit hole with that, haven't you?
I have indeed. But a new style whiskey. I've even got I see a Rieger's across here as well.
Rieger, yeah.
Rieger's nice, a sort of American rye, spicy whiskey. And then I do think going back in time's lovely. Glengoyne used to find its way into Cutty Sark a lot. And I think an old Cutty Sark, I'd like to get my hands one of those as well. So would that be in there? Dallas? Or would we just go to Islay? Hell, let's go to Islay. Finish with a Bowmore. I had a lovely Bowmore finished in an Oloroso sherry cask. So that's maybe what I would do. Maybe it's Oloroso casks that's been matured in, but different from different countries, different styles.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Yeah, you could have so you could do a Cavalan. You could do a Japanese whiskey, so a Yamazaki 18, quite expensive, but you could do that. You could do a Cavalan, you could do a Tamdhu, 3 Oloroso sherry casks.
That's a lovely idea. Now, I'm just thinking this as we go. So there we go. Well, that was what's happening in bars. We've just got a couple of minutes before we have the you've arrived at your whiskey destination.
Oh, back by popular demand. We've had literally one letter about it.
But we have a little excerpt from a trip to Aberdeen, and it's one of the great whiskey bars in Scotland. It's called The Grill.
It's a great whiskey bar.
Have you been?
I have.
Of course you have.
It's brilliant.
It's
really unassuming as well. You just walk in, and it's brilliant. It's a fabulous bar. When were you there?
Last Friday. This was midnight, and I just realised that a storm had come in, and all the trains had been cancelled the next morning. So I thought, well, no point in going to bed. So it was a great night in the Grill, and it's one of these features of the great whiskey bars been around the world, and we'll try and do more. You did one from Delilah's, which I thought was great, and I suppose the Grill, Delilah's, the Pot Still, tried to build up a little library of these bars where we have an interview or two in, and here's just a few minutes of the Grill.
For me, the history behind this bar is huge. What it was to Aberdeen, the amount of whiskies that the bar holds.
Eddie, we're in the bar. And that's, excuse me, how long has this bar been going?
It was 153 years.
What?
But what it was, the reason it's called the Grill is because when it first opened, it was actually a restaurant. But I think it was 1926 or 1928 it got turned into a bar.
Right.
I never knew it was
and that's why it's called the Grill, because it was a place you come for food.
Yeah, it was a restaurant. And they never changed its name.
Right.
Every time you walk,
come in and thinking about a restaurant because it's called the Grill.
Yeah. Well, if a lassie phoned up, remember last week, asked if she could book a table, and I thought
you can date a table.
But I thought I better check, and I said, you know, it's not a restaurant. No, but it's we want whiskey. I thought.
Somebody said, we don't serve food here. Okay.
Now, you can hear pie or a toasty.
I know you didn't want to appear on the podcast, but just if you had to describe this bar, how would you describe it? You've worked here for how many years? And what's your name?
9.5, Meg.
Meg has worked for 9.5 years in the Grill.
Mental.
Can you tell me what it looks like if you can't see it? Because nobody can see it.
It's a right good old-fashioned bar.
Good. And can I just say, if you walk past this in Aberdeen's, is it Union Street outside?
Yeah.
This does not look...
Oh God, no.
It doesn't look like...
The outside just doesn't do any justice.
Yes.
The outside looks like it's just a
crummy
old bar.
It does.
You come inside and you realise it's
a little bit. You just said it looks like
but then it's good. People will say, oh my goodness, what a surprise.
Yeah.
Because from the outside it really doesn't look nothing. But when they come in they think, wow.
Wow.
And who was the guys that were
there's wow.
Who was the guys that were in tonight for the theatre?
The Scottish National Orchestra.
We're sitting there about 20, 30 of them.
No, 10, 15 it was.
Oh, there'd have been more not, would there have?
Oh, it's my card, I think.
Yeah. But
oh, thank you.
There's a couple of the guys, they always come here, you know. But they're just lovely. During the day, your little pensioners, they get a pensioner's dram now. They'll get a nip of grouse for £2.
Nice.
They get Isla Sky, bells,
yes,
white in the Mackay's, they're all £2 to a senior citizen. Got one wee man comes in every morning. He's normally there when you open the door. Isla Sky's his tipple.
Oh, good for him. God bless him.
Yeah.
Lovely. And how long you've been working here for 9.5 years?
9.5 years.
Yes, but before that you did mention bells. There was another bar in Aberdeen.
36 years.
Come on, she's not a spring chick. How many years?
36.
That's 45 years in the industry.
Well, even longer than that, because I worked as a waitress in the beer barrel, Park Street. You know the Salt and Arms?
I do, yes.
Well, the lounge part there. So I started bar work altogether in 1972.
So you've been working in bars in Aberdeen
50 years.
for 50 years?
Yeah.
51 years?
I've only been full-time since 1979.
79. My God.
Wow, mate, that's amazing.
It is amazing. And so you must have seen every type of person, every type of
oil industry person.
Yeah.
Oils.
I remember when I first started working up in the Bells, and guys would come off for the rigs, and you get all these kit bags, and you think, bloody hell, climbing over the kit bags to kind of get round the tables. See, now you go on thing to hear that back again.
I know, that's
You know?
and that's the sad thing about Aberdeen, is Aberdeen's kind of changed in that kind of context.
What do you mean?
You see the fact is that how populated and how busy it was through the oil industry, and that kind of credit card, cash expenses from the guys from Houston, Texas, from
That's
Norway.
where I would say you notice a big difference now. There's no the same amount of works, credit cards going about as what there used to be. You know, you'd always see guys putting a card behind the bar for like expenses, but that's few and far between now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm sorry, you're still working.
It's quite all right.
Right, thank you. Meg, thank you very much. Your name is, sir? Chris, thank you very much. Eddie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And for a Whisky Unscripted impromptu from the Grill in Aberdeen, which I think is a place, if you come here, you must come to. You must come to. Yes.
It is one of the best whisky bars in Scotland.
Yeah.
You look at what we've got in Edinburgh, Glasgow, Inverness, Dundee, Perth. The Grill is one of the top 5, without a doubt, whisky bars in Scotland.
Brilliant. Idiot. Can't say any better than that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And can I just say thank you to our man Eddie Bruce there, our sales supremo in the north, for really helping me out with that interview. Does that bring it all back, Gordon?
It's a good bar. I've had a couple of drams in there over the years. Very good.
Certainly worth the. You would never want to go in if you didn't know it was a nice whiskey bar. This looks a bit, you might say, rough round the edges, but trust me, get to the Grill in Aberdeen. It's great. Gordon,
never. What's the phrase about a book in its cover? Never read something. Yeah. Anyway,
judge it. Don't
judge a book by its cover. Yeah, absolutely.
Gordon, we're about to finish the show with you have arrived at your whiskey destination.
Favorite.
I have just looked through my Malt Whiskey Yearbook 2023, stopped at a page, contact us, and I've followed the directions. So you're in Glasgow, Gordon. You've got your car running. You're at St George's Cross. I would like you to drive up the Great Western Roads, one of the great roads of Scotland, 3 miles long. You're going to pass the Glasgow Botanical Gardens. You're on the A82. You're heading north out of Glasgow. You can wave to the Loch Lomond Distillery. You're going to pass Luss. You're going to pass Arica. You're now on the A83. You're going to sweep around Loch Long. You're now heading south on the A83. You're going to keep on heading south on the A83. I'm not going to tell you where you're going to go, but you're going to pass in a town, Hazelburn Business Park, at the Fiddler's Inn. You're going to come off the A83 and you're going to go past the Kinloch Bar, up Saddle Street, and you're going to turn right onto the B842 High Street. Now, I think you know where you are, but you've got a 50-50 here. You have arrived at your whiskey destination. But where is it?
It's one of two.
Yes.
Glen Scotia.
Glen Scotia Distillery. You say one of two Campbelltown distilleries, and you are correct, Gordon. Well done.
Yes.
What gave it away there? So I was hoping you might go for Springbank.
I don't know. I just was like, I was trying. I'm not sure. It was a guess.
Yes.
I can't remember really. I've got one for you though.
I am ready for the whiskey destination.
Okay. You're at Glasgow Airport. You're boarding the KL 1474.
I've been on that one.
You're going to land and you're going to head south from the city of your landing. You're going to take the A2 to Utrecht. And then you're going to take the A27 heading south through Gorenchem, continuing south towards the Belgian border, Oosterhout and Breda. And then you're going to take the A58 heading eastbound till Neerhoven, and then you're going to head south again to the N260 through Alphen to a place called Baalhertog, and you are going to arrive at your whiskey destination.
Fiendish. Come on, Gordon. That is absolutely the thing. We mentioned Belgium. I thought, are we in Philly territory? Are we?
You're still in the Netherlands.
I have looking for a Dutch distillery, and I know there is a couple. Gordon, I am going to have to get out my car, admit defeat, and get the old map out. Where have you taken me to? I have not reached my destination.
Zudam Distilleries. It's Millstone. So no, that was a difficult one. That was a very difficult one. I'm sorry.
No, I gave you a nice...
but I wanted to incorporate where I was heading to this weekend. But yeah, Zudam is Millstone are producing really good whiskey, and it's just a really nice. If you've not tried it, absolutely try it.
Not a bad way to finish the episodes. We had a Tamdhu 18. We were drinking the Cask Strength version, and I was drinking a Kansas City whiskey, West Bottoms. We've been to Vegas, been to Amsterdam, been to Aberdeen. Now you've taken us to the southern part of the Netherlands, and I had you in Campbelltown. Very easy one, but it was a 50-50. Gordon, it's a long episode, but listen, when we get together, we've got to do this because we don't get together enough. You're off.
No, you're
right.
You're
off to the Hague and Interwhiskey.
I am. That's the Hague this weekend, so we'll see a lot of our friends out there, which will be great. Back for a few days on, and then I'm out to Interwhiskey in Frankfurt next weekend, and then I'm heading over to Korea before Christmas as well. So it's a busy run-in, as they say. And you're off to Switzerland as well, aren't you?
Yes, I was going to say you poor soul, but it's not. There's a gag there. Yes, I am. I'm going down to England later this week, doing a lot in sort of the middle part of England the week after, and then, yes, the Zurich, the Swiss Whisky Festival in Baden.
Nice.
I'll bring you back hopefully nice Christmas market.
Bring me back a Toblerone.
Yes.
Or some milk and chocolate. Lovely. I'll bring you back some fried chicken. Beautiful.
Wonderful. It's another episode, Series 7, Episode 7 of Whisky Unscripted. Get the music going. Gordon, great to speak to you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Whiskey trail, posting ahead on the whiskey trail.